All right, we're back up and running. All right, so rubric. This is what the grading will be on your rubric. Like I said, answering those 2 questions, that's worth 30 points. We're going to look for your GPA calculator, your course pace charts, and that your binder is organized, and that gives you 100 points for that assignment. You'll get those that week 3, week 6, and week 9. So tutorials, that is the other lesson this week. Have any of you guys got to the tutorials part? Have you guys made it to lesson 7?
I haven't yet.
You haven't got there? I think Trinity has gotten there and Aja. I think those are the 2 that have gotten that far. It's probably a good thing that you haven't got that far because the other teachers and I had a conversation this afternoon. That's partly why I was downstairs and busy and didn't get upstairs to get going on time. But we were discussing tutorials, and tutorials are a very brick and mortar AVID assignment. Juju, did you get in on any of them last quarter?
No, I wasn't able to.
Okay. So I know that last quarter, I only had a couple of students that did them. I know the other AVID teachers just had a few students, and unfortunately, they're a good portion of your grade. So the grades were not so good last quarter because they're difficult. And the tutorials we have set up for week 3, 6, and 8. First quarter, there was 1 tutorial. Second quarter, there was 2 tutorials. This quarter, there's 3 tutorials. And you know, the purpose of the tutorials is to help you guys gain a better understanding of your course content and to clear up any confusion. And so it's about you being able to take the information and go further with it. And so we've been discussing this, and the way that the tutorials are set up currently is before class, before a tutorial, you're going to take some notes in class. You'll identify an area that you don't understand. You'll fill out pre-work on your TRF form, and then you'll bring that with you to your tutorial. Now, we've already modified the TRF form, which is a tutorial request form, and we modified that, from day 1 so that you could just take like maybe an assignment that you didn't get a good grade on, a project that you didn't quite understand how to do, and then you could use that as your point of confusion. And then you would bring that to your tutorial. So at the time that you guys set up to do your tutorial, the presenter is going to write their question on the board, or you're going to explain to the rest of the group what your point of confusion is, and you're going to give them a 30-second speech about the pre-work. And then the group members are going to ask questions from COSTAS questioning to prompt and guide the presenter to think critically about your question and help them to think about the steps or processes that are used. You can record those on a board. Group members take notes during the presentation. And then after, everybody's going to write a reflection on their TRF form about, what you did during your presentation. So how easy do you think that is?
I don't think it would be too hard, but kind of confusing.
Okay. Confusing for sure. I know that I was told by Miss Salvatore that, Aja, you said in their meeting, what if you don't even have a question? What do you do then? Because you understand everything. So you'd have to make up a question?
Yeah, so we went over that, and she said if you don't have a question, then it's not a problem. That you guys are still working out some technicalities, but just to make sure to help others with their questions.
Yeah, we before you came in here, I was telling the other ones that we had a long discussion this morning, the other two AVID teachers and I, about tutorials, and the way that AVID has them set up is very difficult to do, not only to do online, but to do based on how iSucceed works. Because what happens right now if you don't understand something in your class? What do you do?
I normally go to my teacher, but I know a lot of people Google it.
Right. Right. So you're not stuck on something and waiting until you go into class the next day to talk to your teacher. If you have a question, you shoot us a hangout or you send us an email, and we're usually, back with you. If it's during the school day, of course, we're back with you pretty quick. And so
Yeah,
you're not
exactly.
having to like sit on these questions. So that's what we were discussing this morning, is that the tutorial process as it's written with AVID doesn't work for iSucceed. And so we're working on it. We came up with some ideas of possible changes that we're going to make. We meet as AVID teachers tomorrow morning, along with our administration. So as far as the tutorial process goes, we're going to go through this. Just know that you may get an email from me tomorrow afternoon that will make things much easier for you, because I have some ideas on how to fix it. These are the level of questioning that they want you to use. Costa's level of questioning when you're asking questions. That's just for you to know. Here's an example for you of a filled out form and what that looks like. There's also some links here for more information about tutorials, some video examples as to how a tutorial works. But we're going to try and tweak things. So just know, as far as your tutorials go, wait on those at least until tomorrow afternoon before you try and set that up. So your questions. So anybody have any questions on those?
No.
Not that I can think of.
Okay.
To be honest, I barely got half of it because my son's a little bit upset right
now. Okay. Well, we'll go on. We're going to do our Socratic discourse. We're going to look at that. Sorry. We're going to look at your articles and your questions that you guys asked. These are your questions from your discussion board last week. So do you guys remember the actual article itself?
Yeah, I do for the most part. I think I have it set up on another tab too. Let me look.
Okay. So if you can, here's the link that'll get you to the article. So you can pull that up. And Seth, I know you don't have your mic on, or you don't have mic capabilities. Is that correct? Let's see. Okay. So if you want to just type your questions or your comments in the chat box, and I'll read those out to the group so that those that are watching the recording can get those as well. But we'll just go ahead and start. Whose questions are at the very beginning here?
I think those are mine.
Okay. So do you want to just go ahead and ask your first question?
Do you want me to read it or just
Yeah, you can go ahead and read it.
Okay. So basically I said I can see how a lack of friends is bad, and I can see but I'm wondering if it's really a problem that we're not rushing into driving, that we're dating less and having less intercourse, because I would think those would be good things, since we can take our time to learn to drive and not end up in abusive or unimportant relationships, and it can help keep teen pregnancy rates down in a way. That was one of my questions, and the other one was.
So let's just talk about that one first. Does anybody have any comments that they want to share?
I think that, yeah, it can be a really good thing, of course, but also, like, maybe not experiencing it could also not help in a way.
Honestly, I don't know. There's so many things you can say on it, but I can see where she's coming from. Like, is it really, really, like, bad that we aren't rushing into driving? Like lack of friends and stuff. It's bad, but at the same time, I can see how it's not. And there's so many different ways you can look at it.
Okay, so here's just a tool that I found. So, you could say, if you wanted to make a comment when you're doing these seminars, you could say, I agree with what Aja said, because, maybe it isn't such a bad thing that kids aren't jumping into these things like sex and, the bad things, so they're not getting pregnant, and that's not a bad thing. But I can also see where not having friends could be considered a bad thing. Does that make sense for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put this, I'll go back to the questions. And Aja, why don't you ask one of your questions? And then I'll come back to this after you've asked your question.
Are you meaning me?
Yes. Am I saying your name wrong, or can you not understand?
Yeah, you are.
How do you say it?
It's Ada.
Ada. Okay, sorry.
No, you're good.
All right, ask your question, and then I'll go back to the other screen.
So one of my questions was, how can our mental health be bettered while we're still using technology?
Anyone? So what exactly do you mean by that question?
Well, in the link that we got, the doctor talked about how technology is most likely one of the causes of why our mental health is going down, and how social media is affecting us, and how we're getting depressed because of it. And my question was just, how could we better our mental health and still use technology? Because you can't just completely cut technology out. I mean, we're so integrated into it, like it's such a big part of our life. How can we better our mental health while still using technology? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Does anybody have any thoughts on that?
I can kind of understand it. I like my personal opinion toward answering your question would be that obviously not cutting out technology completely, but in situations even like the one that we're in right now, how we're in a chat like thing, a video chat. That's a good example on how it can help us with mental health, because obviously we're all sitting at home or wherever doing our schoolwork, and that can become lonely and give us a lack of friends. But at the same time, in a situation like this, we're using technology to help us in a way stay sane, knowing that we're home alone.
Well, I agree with what you said, Kaylin. There are some ways like chats for schoolwork where you guys get a chance to actually interact, which is actually the main reason why we do this, can be beneficial. I remember in the article, the author said that placing limits on the amount of time that you spend on like social media could be a good thing. And I think I kind of tend to agree with that. What do you guys think?
I definitely agree with that. One of these questions was mentioned in the meeting I went to yesterday, and I will say the same thing I said then. I play sports, and one of the rules for playing basketball is that when we step on the basketball bus, our phones are taken away. So that, outside drama with like, so and so can't interfere with our games, Instagram and Snapchat and all of that can't interfere with our how we play, and we're just solely focused on basketball the second we step on the bus. So I definitely agree with that. That limiting, social media and being on technology is definitely helpful, because my team has seen tremendous what's the word, tremendous we've done so much better playing since we've had our phones taken away and just had to, not worry about everything like that.
Cool. Another example of that is that when I was doing FCCLA and teaching up in Fairfield, I had get together at my house, and I had a couple of students that were sitting in the same room on the opposite ends of the couch. There's one person in between them, and they were carrying on a conversation on their phones, like texting each other, not actually interacting with each other. And it just got to a point where I'm like, you guys, we're here for bonding and to get to know each other better, and join in the group, join in the conversation with what's going on around you, rather than focusing so much on your phone in this conversation that these two particular students were carrying on. So I ended up taking their phone away.
That is really crazy. I can't imagine holding a conversation with someone in the same room on my phone. That's crazy.
Yeah, it was pretty funny to watch. Juju, do you want to ask, or Kaylin, did you have something to say?
Yeah, I was gonna say that my mom does the same thing. I'll be sitting in the same room with her, and she would text me, and I'm like, I'm sitting right next to you, and she's like, but it was easier for me to just text you. It didn't make any sense to me. it's kind of why I keep my son away from technology, and the only thing he's allowed to do, like on my phone, is play with toddler lock. If we're really busy doing something, then he's allowed to do that. But he's not one of the kids that sits on YouTube or anything, because I don't want him to be purely focused on technology. And I even see him use his imagination and stuff, which is what I wanted him to do, is not be so enticed onto technology. Even though he's not a teenager, he's a toddler, but still.
Yeah, you make some really good points. Juju, do you want to ask your question?
Okay, so one of my questions was, what do you think that are some of the major causes of teens being so attached to social media?
I think one of the major causes is probably that, like, we've grown up with it, you know? Like, I know my parents were really strict about it, but, like, I got a phone when I was in 7th grade because of the fact that I played sports. But, like, even then it was, like, you could only have it when you, like, went away. So, like, my little sister has, like, grown up with technology. And so she has, you know, like, a tablet and all kinds of stuff. And I think that's part of why we're, like, so attached to social media, is because I had an Instagram account in 6th grade because I had an iPod. You know, we, like, basically grew up with it. And so it's just, like, integrated itself into our lives. You know, like, it's just, like, now a part of our life. We've known it for so long that we've become attached to it, and we just can't see a world without it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I have a lot of nieces and nephews, and they have tablets, and they're so attached to watching YouTube and stuff like that, and they've learned a lot from it, but at the same time, they don't connect with each other as much as they could be.
Definitely. I know I babysit a lot too, and my uncle and aunt, their 2 kids are turning 2 and turning 4, and they each have a tablet, and they each have their own separate apps and games and movies, and I find that they don't play as much with each other as before they got the tablet, because, hey, they could be playing this game, or, hey, he can watch his dinosaur movies now, like, he doesn't have to play with his sister, type of a thing.
I agree and disagree at the same time. I agree that a lot of us have grown up. I think I'm probably a little bit older than you guys, but a lot of us have grown up with technology in our lives, and I do see, like, my younger siblings, they have tablets and they're constantly on them, and, you know, that, yes, we do, since it has always been available to us. I also feel that I disagree, because I also feel that it's kind of just a fad to be on technology all the time. Because everyone else is doing it, we feel the need to do it ourselves, even if, you know, we're someone who would like to be off technology less. If we don't use it, then how are we supposed to communicate with the people that are constantly on it, that find it a necessity, that can't live without it, type of thing? If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does, and I really, really like how you said that. Like, I can see where you're coming from, and I agree with you as well.
I have to tell you about my own children, because I agree with what you're saying. I have 3 children, and they're 8, 7, and 6 now. All of them are in school, and I see them using. We've kind of been through the gamut of tablets, and their biggest thing right now is they have our old cell phones that the screen is broken on, or doesn't hold a charge, so it has to have a battery pack to it. And so we've downloaded, apps on there for them to play with. But we've come to a point in our family where they only get their phones. They get them on Fridays after school, and then they have to give them back to me on Sunday night. And they can play with them, over the weekend, and they'll use them to do different things. But they've, downloaded a math game called Prodigy, where they can play with other students in their school via this online game. They can see each other, which is very interesting and kind of scary at the same time. But, we've had to set limits on them so that they will actually play with each other. It just becomes a point where it's like you have to stop what you're doing and go play. You have toys in your room that you haven't touched in a week. Go play with your toys.
Oh yeah, I can definitely see how that is an issue, but it's good that you've set ground rules and you're yeah, you still have to play with each other, even if you do get to play games with other classmates, you still have to play with your siblings. So that's awesome that you do that.
To be honest, this all kind of led into my second question. Is it okay if I ask it?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I said, although yes, the internet has been known to drag people apart, perhaps we're simply using the devices wrong. Maybe the following generations need to teach their children how to use them properly, teach them that they're not something you're on all the time, but something that you use to plan more time with relatives or friends, and to teach them that they need to use them to call their parents when they're out at a basketball game, or to use them or something to plan more time. I think I lost where I was. But something that we use not to restrict how we are with other people, but as parents, or I'm a parent, but as people who eventually have kids, or people that don't, people that they take care of nieces or nephews or anything like that, I feel like it's our job to teach them in the new generations not to use them as often, and maybe that's our job. Is it really their fault, or is it our fault because we're not teaching them how to use them properly? If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense, and I definitely agree with how you said that. Are we being taught the wrong way to use technology, or are we teaching younger generations the wrong way to use it? I can see where you're coming from. I really like how you said that.
You guys make very good points. I read an article one time about how the different notifications, like the different dings and beeps on your phone, are training us to be, more, I don't know, we'll hear it. It's kind of like Pavlov and the dog, and how they train the dog. Whenever you hear the bell, you go for your treat. And whenever you hear a bell, it's like, oh, I got to go grab my phone. And you get to a point where you hear the bell and you have to get your phone. There's no options about it. And so the article was saying how important it is for you to turn off those notifications. And you just set up a time that says, okay, I'm going to check my phone at 3:00. When I get out of school, I check my phone. Other than that, it's in my pocket, it's off, whatever. I check my phone at lunch. I check my phone at, after school, if you were in a brick and mortar. But, you set up times when you check your phone, and that way you're not constantly on the internet and you're not constantly worrying about what people are saying or doing on social media.
I forget my phone everywhere, so I tend to just be like, oh, I found my phone 3 hours after someone texted me. Okay, I'll check it.
Yeah.
You know, I typically don't tend to leave my phone, and I think that's more because, like, I have books on my phone than because of actual, like, notifications. I'm a total book nerd, and so I have, you know, Barnes and Noble app, the Kindle app, all of those, and so just for that reason, my phone is always on me, so that if I don't need to be doing something, you know, if I'm sitting in a waiting room or I'm on my phone reading my book. You know, sometimes you can't take a paperback everywhere with you. So, but other than that, yeah, I always shut my phone off. I have inside my phone, I have it like my phone powers itself off and doesn't give me any notifications from 10 o'clock at night until 7 o'clock the next morning. I limit screen time, you know, because you never know when a time you could have been spent, you know, being with someone could have been your last. Then again, that's just me. I just, you know, lost my grandma. So lately things have been like, oh, I need to spend more time with my little sister and my mom and my dad and, you know, that kind of stuff.
That's kind of funny that you mentioned that. Like, not like funny that sorry for your loss type thing, but I mean, my grandma actually just passed away like in January, so.
I'm so sorry for your loss. Mine passed away in the end of October, beginning of November.
Yeah, like I said, I wasn't trying to say it was funny or anything.
Oh yeah, no, you're good.
I can relate. But yeah, like that's I like I guess the way I worded that was more from the perspective as a parent. I don't want my son being on electronics the way that I see my little brothers and my mom constantly on the phone, and I tend to try and stay away from my electronics just because I know my mom's constantly on her phone so much so that we can't even talk to her sometimes. We're like, hey, I'm in crisis. Can I talk to you? And she doesn't want to talk to me because she's reading her book sometimes, and that's the only thing I find upsetting when it comes to people that use their phones even for reading. You can tend to get so caught up in a book that sometimes you could end up blocking them out. So I just personally, I'd say that even though you use your phone to read, just be a little bit careful about the times that you do it, because sometimes when, like I said, my mom, she'd use that as an excuse. She would be on her phone constantly, and she'd shut me and my brothers out because she was reading. And so, just don't shut anybody out because of a book, you know.
Yeah, definitely. I will definitely watch that because, you know, I have a little sister and I would want her to come to me. But yeah.
Well, awesome. Does anybody have anything else that you want to add about the article that you read?
No, not that I can think of.
Well, thank you guys for participating today. It was nice to hear voices other than mine. So our toolbox, we still have the stuff from the first couple of weeks. We've added some more information as far as tutorials, some videos on that. But like I said, that might be changing. Hopefully, we get the go-ahead. The other teachers and I have kind of come up with an idea that we really like. We just need to get some approval from the people above us that said, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. Let's go ahead and change it. And then once they give us that go ahead, we'll do that. So those that are watching, they need to explain what we did during our team bonding and then give your thoughts on one of the questions that were discussed. And then they'll get credit for that. Like I said, watch for my email to come out about the tutorials. I will send something out to you as soon as I get done. We have a meeting tomorrow morning at 9, so I should definitely have something to you by lunchtime tomorrow regarding your tutorials. If you guys want to set up a time, do you guys have a time, the three of you, that works, that you guys want to discuss that right now?
Yeah, so honestly, you guys, it's up to you. I do, like I said, I do play sports, and it is in the middle of district time, so mornings work best for me, just because we travel, and I know if we win on Thursday, then we will be leaving for McCall, which is about a 7-hour drive, and I will be gone all weekend. So if we could do it, what's today, Tuesday, like we could do it right now or even tomorrow morning.
I pretty much have the times that my son is napping or asleep. So, sometimes even when my boyfriend's home, he can watch our son. Right now he's working from 3 o'clock onward, and then our son naps from from noon to 2, pretty much every day. So that's usually my available times is noon till 2, or anytime that my boyfriend's not working, I could probably sneak away for a little bit to do stuff.
Like I said, it's up to you guys. I can talk to my coaches about keeping my phone for a little bit on the bus to do this. I honestly don't think they'd mind. They say a student comes before athletics. So really, it's up to you guys and what times everyone can do best.
Any morning works for me as long as it's before 2, because I have sports most days too. So, but any morning or afternoon would work for me.
So should we shoot for tomorrow morning?
That could work for me. I know that much.
What time are you guys thinking?
Maybe around 12.
Yeah, I can do that.
I was just about to check my phone because this is a scenario where I need to make sure I don't. Tomorrow's. What day is tomorrow?
Wednesday.
Yeah, I don't even keep track of what day it is. And I don't know where my phone went. I'm trying to make sure I don't have an appointment, because if I remember correctly, I have baby appointments and stuff because I'm like 37 weeks pregnant, so I have to make sure that I don't have one of those tomorrow. I might be able to do noon if I use my hotspot on my phone or connect my school stuff. I think I could probably do that.
Oh no, that's okay. We can do another time. No need to.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to figure out how. I don't know when the appointment is, so I don't even know.
We can figure out. Oh my goodness, my words aren't working. Figure it out in Google Hangouts. That way, Seth can know, and everyone else.
Yeah.
Trinity, those who couldn't make it today.
Yeah, I know I could probably do Thursday. I'm pretty sure I could do Thursday.
Okay, yeah. Like I said, we can figure out in Google Hangouts and make sure that Trinity and Seth can make it too.
Yeah.
So we'll plan on Thursday, and I'll message the Google Hangouts, and then we can go from there. Does that sound good?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, awesome.
All right, guys, thanks.
Okay, bye.
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 Bye.